All right, I think we're on episode 15 now of the StoicGeorge Podcast. My name is George. I'm a human being making a podcast about my self-growth journey for some reason. I've been thinking lately about how sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up and experience and listen, and it's not always time to process and synthesize and create and express. So I was putting off recording this episode, when I was thinking of topics, like everything felt kind of forced and I wasn't really sure whether I should record anything at all. But then I was like, there is something compelling me to do this podcast, and I've learned to just trust my gut sometimes. Whoa, I need water. I've learned to trust my gut. I think maybe some of the hesitation of recording this episode this week is because none of the topics feel quite right. So then it's like I start to think about that outcome again. Like, is it going to be a good episode? Is it going to get that click-through rate, that watch time? But I'm working on letting go of all that. Letting go of outcomes, just trusting what is. Maybe this podcast is serving a purpose that I cannot yet understand. And maybe these episodes that I, for some reason, perceive as being too rambly and incohesive, maybe they're serving a purpose too, whether it be for myself, for others, for my future self, for the grand scheme of the universe. I mean, obviously, this is now a part of the grand scheme of the universe because it's happening. It's happening right here, right now. I'm recording this episode in a little bit of a different state of mind than usual. No, I'm not tripping on psychedelics, but I am tripping on caffeine. My morning coffee is just starting to hit. I have a completely empty stomach. So it's really hitting. Like, I feel the caffeine in my veins, which is one of my favorite feelings. And the thing about caffeine is that this is a drug too. And I think that we forget that sometimes, but like caffeine, like many different substances, also helps open the creative channel. It's no wonder why we all get to our creative work and whatever our work is when we're on caffeine. It's because it's a creative aid. It, like many substances, it helps lower your inhibitions. You get some of those layers out of the way so you can just open the channel and get to work. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I love seeing caffeine as a drug, because it is a drug. And when I feel it in my body, sometimes I just like to enjoy it and appreciate it. It's also a rainy day. Looking at my tree outside, as always, my good friend out there. It's a gloomy day. It's probably it's 12:41 p.m. And I woke up at 11, had a slow morning. Yeah, it's Monday. So that's kind of the context of where this is coming from. And yeah, this is going to be one of those wide net episodes where I come in with not really a plan. I do have some rough bullet points written down on my notes app that I just quickly wrote down before recording this episode. But another day on the journey of life, on the spiritual journey, sitting here in my room in Brooklyn, New York City. Curious what all you guys are up to as you're listening to this. It's cool to think about you all going down your separate paths, maybe on the way to work, maybe sitting at work, maybe freaking sitting in lotus position, meditating through it. I don't know, but it's cool. We're all connected in some way. So yeah, I guess even though I feel like it's kind of a time in my life for me to shut up and listen and experience, here I am expressing anyways. And another thing I try to tell myself is that since I'm trying but not trying. By the way, if you haven't seen the show Undone on Amazon Prime, it's a beautiful show. Speaks to many existential themes. It speaks to like operating in different planes of reality, such as the spiritual plane. And they use this quote repeatedly, try, not try. It's actually something that reminds me of an Alan Watts thing I just heard, which was, I believe it's Wei Wu, which is like effortless effort. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, you don't need to try so hard to make things happen in your life, because the right things are just going to happen. So sitting down to record this podcast in this way kind of is Wei Wu. It's like, I'm trying, but I'm not trying. I'm just, instead of focusing so much on how it's going to come out, I'm just allowing it to come out. And anyways, I've been telling myself that it's like, since I'm not trying so hard and I'm not playing the metric games, at least not all the time, not with this episode, it's like, probably the people listening are part of my soul tribe, or there's some form of connection there. Like, we in some way are part of the same community. Our brains work in the same way. So in that sense, I don't need to try so hard. It is just a conversation. And I don't need to add those extra layers of thinking, is it good, is it bad? Because who freaking cares? Who freaking cares? I guess that could flow into one of the things on my mind. It's like, I'm continually progressing down the spiritual path and the path of letting go. And in this book I'm reading now, actually, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, which is blowing my mind. People often ask what books I'm reading. This is what I'm reading right now. It's by Chogyam Trungpa. Possibly saying that very wrong, probably saying that very wrong, but it's absolutely blowing my mind. And what's cool is this called to me at a used bookstore. I had never heard of this author, never heard of this book. I just picked it up, and it is absolutely initiating a step forward in my spiritual path, because it's helping me understand that the ego can grasp or will grasp spiritualism as another accomplishment to grasp onto. And when you're grasping onto spirituality as an accomplishment, automatically that introduces the paranoia of needing to hold on to it in order to maintain your new state of being. But the point of the spiritual path is to let go of all of that. Anyways, continuing down my path of letting go, the reason I thought of this book right now is because Trungpa uses the phrase let be, which I actually really like that as well. Let go, let be, they kind of mean the same thing, but let be has like a little bit more of a friendly, warm feeling to it than let go. But I think they're both good ones. Anyways, it's like, yeah, I spent years and years and years being like so attached to view counts and metrics on my YouTube channel. And now it's like, I've really leaned into my flop era. It's like my podcasts are getting hundreds of views, whereas on my old skateboarding channel, I was used to getting 20,000 views per video. And this used to send me into a panic about, where is it going to go? Am I going to run out of income? Like, if not that many people are seeing it, what's the point? I am so letting go of all of that to an extent that's almost unbelievable to me. It's like, I'm finally noticing myself posting things on TikTok, sharing my expressions, in the podcast, and posting them. And pretty much if you're familiar with the YouTube Studio ranking system, where it like judges your video based on your past 10 videos in terms of metrics, I'm pretty much a 10 out of 10 on every single upload. But it's like, I finally don't care. And that's pretty significant, because I spent, I would say, at least 5 years being crushed by that sort of result. But now it's like, I don't give a shit where it's going. Like, I really don't. And it's like the ego tries so hard to make everything have a purpose in the future. It's like, oh, this podcast needs to be going somewhere. The numbers need to be going up, and and it's like, it's strange to dismantle the framework with which I was operating for my entire life. Like, I'm noticing it start to dismantle. It's like, holy shit. What the fuck? Like, I can create freely and openly without caring about these things. It's weird. It's like, I mean, I do feel, it's like I hesitate to refer to myself as having an awakening, but like, I am clearly awakening to the fact that the way I've operated in my life thus far is simply a way that I was taught to operate. I was taught to operate on the basis of accomplishment, working for the future, external validation. I'm seeing that was all just something that was taught to me and sold to me by other people, by society, etc. And like, when I tell you my world is being shattered by my spiritual journey is no exaggeration. It's like, whoa. Like, I don't need to I don't need to be working to have a house with a front lawn in the future. I can simply enjoy my life and what I'm doing right now. I don't need to have a certain income to be successful. It's like, if I put myself back in my past, like really capitalistic, kind of ignorant perspective, and I mean no shade by that for anyone who's still operating in that way. If I put myself back in that perspective, I would see myself now as throwing my life away because it's no longer working towards a specific view of the future. But when I ask myself now, it's like, oh, I've found life. Now I've found life. I've found how to enjoy my life right now. And it's like, what if I die next week? I call myself StoicGeorge, which is funny because I don't really, Stoicism helped boost me on this path, but I'm not really like actively studying or thinking about Stoicism too much. But Memento Mori is a good one. Remember death. And it's like, yeah, you can slip into spending your days entirely thinking about the future and literally being bummed out about where you are and feeling like you need more. But you're going to die. You're going to die. And like, yeah, it's like, yeah, okay. Probably, chances are I'm going to have a long life, and, maybe one day I'll hit retirement age, and sure, it'd be nice way then in the future to have a big juicy retirement fund. But it's also like, yeah, I could die next week. And it's like, I've hit a point where it's like, I don't even care. It's like, I could, yeah, because I'm operating right here, right now. And it's like, it's really awesome and beautiful. And I'm so happy with where I'm at. And I'm no longer trying to do everything for my fucking retirement fund and to have a house and kids. It's like, if those things want to come, they will come. And here's another Stoic idea, actually. It's like, we spend so much time being anxious about the future, but the thing is, like, when you hit that future event that you're worried about, you're going to be like, you're still going to have your faculties and your ability to deal with the situation. So it's like, if you hit retirement age and you haven't been investing, like, you're still going to possess a brain and the ability to navigate your situation. And maybe it won't be as cushy as you had envisioned it, but it's like, you still have access to the present moment. There's actually there's no way I'm going to be able to find it, but there's a Buddhist phrase that Trungpa uses, And I feel a little bit of embarrassment every time I say that because I'm probably saying it right. Something like it's like spontaneous action and creative response to the present situation. And it's like, yeah, you're always going to possess the ability to do that, to choose. Oh, here it is actually. If a particular course of action would be clumsy and unskilled, then you would not take that fork in the road. You would take the road of skillful and creative action. You are not really involved with judgment as such, but you choose the creative way. Yeah, that's not like the perfect quote, but yeah, there's this idea of if one is completely open to the situation without any preconceptions, then one would know which action is right and which is unskillful. Yeah, this is the idea of just when you're in the present, like you have access to your whole human intuition. And in the future that you're worried about, you're still going to have access to that ability to respond spontaneously to the moment. And I think that's where joy is. And we've, through society and growing up, we've conditioned ourselves out of that. And we think of joy as this thing we need to work to attain in the future. But how did I even get on this topic? See, this is why sometimes I just got to press record. I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. Oh, I was talking about entering my flop era. But yeah, I've let go of views on a almost frightening level. But it's beautiful. And it's like, for whatever reason, this unhealthy attachment to views and algorithms like has been one of my larger predicaments in my life. And it's this suffering that has caused in my internal life has led me to this work of doing of letting go of those attachments. And yeah, that's some of my work, and I'm doing it, and I'm tempted to say I'm succeeding. But again, that's another trap, because if I'm succeeding at this letting go, then the letting go is another accomplishment I'm grasping onto. And really it's just, I need to truly let go and just be, and let this all unfold and watch it from the peaceful observer standpoint, the standpoint of loving awareness, and just let it all happen. And that's why I'm, shout out to this Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism book, because it's like, if I tell myself, wow, like I'm doing so good at letting go of view counts, and this is such a great accomplishment, and I'm finally successful, and I'm finally happy, then it's like, that's another ego attachment that can be lost. And then I'm going to just re-enter the cycle of suffering. So it's like, yeah, you got to fully let go. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to not frame things as accomplishments based on hard work, What else is on my mind? That was fun. We got into a little ramble there. Okay, on the note, I want to share actually why I haven't been, because in the previous episode, I was asking you guys for advice, and I actually got like 5 emails, which I really appreciate everyone who sent in questions. And I actually recorded some responses to those, but as I was speaking, I was like, I don't actually think I'm in any position to give, which is funny because I was just saying I love giving advice, but I don't think I'm in any position to give anyone advice on their lives. I think what I am in a position to do is share the decisions that I'm making and the way that I'm seeing my life. And I think that you, the listener, can do with that what you want. But I'm actually getting a little bit afraid of giving direct advice, because from one perspective, my advice is literally telling you to throw your life away, to throw away this idea of the future and accomplishment and career. Like, that's too much responsibility for me to bear to more directly tell anyone to do that. It's like, that needs to come from within. yeah, it's too, and like you may be like your karmic path may be to retain those attachments to uh career and future focused living and whatever, and that's a big decision, and it's like the spiritual decisions I'm making, like, yeah, they could lead me to living a drastically different life. Like I could be straying away from that American dream, and it's like, yeah, I've fully let go of that. But if someone out there is attached to that idea of the future and my advice strays them away and then they later regret it, it's like it's too much for me. So I've kind of slowed down on the idea of the giving advice thing. And I'm just going to continue like openly sharing my experience without like, I never want to suggest that my way is the right way, because Ram Dass often uses this analogy of like, if you're on the spiritual path, we're all trying to reach the peak of the mountain. But our paths are going to be drastically different. So I don't want to like, if there's a fork in the road in your path, I'm in no place to tell you which path to take. Again, yeah, it's like I'm simply sharing my path and which ways I'm taking when I experience a fork in the road. And yeah, I know nothing. Basically, I'm fucking 25. Like, I'm in no place to be telling people like whether they should drop out of college. That's like too much, way too much responsibility. More on just like the life. I have this written down, so I might as well share. I speak a lot about this letting go of this career attachment and attachment to views, but it's been really cool. Like I've still been getting brand deals from my, I guess, career as an influencer, and it's interesting to see that as I'm letting go of this career path, it's still working out for me, and there is a sense of abundance still flowing in and still some money coming in. I just did an awesome project with Red Bull on my skateboarding YouTube channel, and then I just worked with a company called Save the Duck on my Instagram. So it's cool. It's cool, especially on Instagram. I'm really letting go of that. I had the skate TikTok, and I was not able to like fully integrate my honest creativity onto there. I kind of left that as a skate platform. On Instagram, I'm really just flowing with it and posting whatever, and I'm no longer attached to just posting skating on there. So it's cool to see like Instagram sponsorships still coming in, sustaining the income and kind of like allowing me to keep having this space and freedom and time to create, figure out what I want to do. Or I shouldn't even put it like that. It's giving me the time and space to be here now and, study, read, share my findings. Yeah, I'm like, in a way, I'm like in a transition in my career, but it's also like, I'm not even trying to see it that way. It's like, this is what I'm doing right now. And it's cool. And I keep telling myself like, when I hit a certain number in my bank account, then I'll start trying to get gigs and maybe looking for part-time jobs and et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, I don't really even need to think about that again, because when that predicament arises in my present moment, then I will have all the capacity to deal with it. I don't need to be sitting here being anxious about when that happens right now. That's like that stoic idea I just shared. It's like, yeah, you can deal with the present moment, and when the future becomes the present moment, then you can deal with the present moment. You don't always have to be anxious about the future. It's kind of this unnecessary additional layer of suffering. But yeah, it's been cool getting the brand deals. I really do love what I do, and it's cool to see it ebb and flow. Now it's not really this steady flow of skate stuff. I'm kind of throwing all this creativity out there and just seeing what happens. And it's funny that Instagram is like one of the main places I'm getting brand deals, and I ain't complaining. It's cool. What else do I want to talk about? I could talk about the acid. Why not? Let's talk about the acid. So this is actually a great story. I was on a first date at a bar, and we got into the topic of psychedelics, and I was just talking about how I feel like ready to try LSD. And somebody across the bar, or actually we were sitting outside and they were at the table right across the way, overheard me and asked if I wanted some LSD. And he pulled out like literally 3 tabs out of his pocket. And I was like, hell yeah. By the way, I'm not condoning taking drugs whatsoever, nor am I condoning taking drugs from strangers. But I do this thing where I really trust most of the way that I've taken psychedelics thus far in my life. It has come to me, and I typically see that as like a sign that I'm ready. And so this was obviously no different. Like what a random thing, you know? And I'm sure people listening to this are thinking I'm so dumb, but that's also, it's interesting because that's my own projection of my own self-consciousness. Anyways, got 3 tabs of LSD from a stranger at a bar during a first date and held on to them for a while. And then there was one Sunday recently where I just like felt like trying it. And I took just a quarter tab, which I kind of actually expected to feel nothing, because if I took like a quarter dose of mushrooms, which would be like 1/8 times a quarter, which is, can I math right now? 1/32. I feel like I wouldn't feel anything. So I expected to feel nothing on the acid, but I actually ended up having a really profound experience. I wrote like probably 10 pages worth of writing in my notes app of just like thoughts and discoveries about life and the flow of energy in the universe. And so I took the tab, and some good friends of mine were having a day party. So I took the tab and then I went over to the day party. At some point, realized that I just wanted to actually be alone. So I started walking home from the party. It started absolutely dumping rain and thunderstorming. So I was sprinting in the rain, starting to trip on acid for the first time. Got home soaking wet, got in the shower, laid down in the fetal position, and kind of had this experience of being born. Yeah, I was being born while I was laying down there in the shower. I was looking at my naked body, and I realized how rare is it that we are truly, truly naked, because we are, as we operate in the world and in social settings, we are walking around with so many layers of garb. And this is like a Buddhist thing. It's the saying that we are all the Buddha dressed in garb. And I felt that. I experienced that there in the shower. I was like, wow, like even with my therapist, someone I'm supposed to be vulnerable with, I am operating with so many ideas of who I think I am. And same when I'm walking down the street, I'm like, I have all these projections in my mind of who I am. And this is who I'm presenting myself as to everyone around me. And it's like, how rare is it that we are truly, truly naked and vulnerable? And I don't know if I finished that thought about the therapist. It's like, I realize even as I'm sitting there with my therapist trying to be open, I'm still holding on to so many layers of garb and who I think I am. And I'm trying to, come up with solutions and this whole very physical plane stuff. And the physical plane exists for sure, and the human plane exists, but it's like, yeah, how rare is it that we are truly, truly vulnerable and open? Even with ourselves. It's like, as I'm sitting here recording this podcast, I'm not fully open. Like, I'm aware this is going on the internet and people will perceive me, and video cut out there for a second. Sorry. People will perceive me, and I'm sitting here with clothing on, and it's got my brand, which comes with all these identity things, and I'm sitting up straight, and I'm in my room. This is a presentation of myself. It's like, yeah, it's that was like my first. That was when the LSD really started kicking in, and then got out of the shower. I felt called to just sit there and meditate, and I actually, it was so funny. I started meditating and putting on Pink Floyd in my headphones, and I was just being like quite literally sent to another dimension. I actually felt directly connected to the music, as if it was a direct experience. And I was realizing how funny and silly it is that when we are in our normal waking human realm, we replay the same songs over and over. We try to milk them of every last piece of dopamine. But when I was listening to this Pink Floyd album, Dark Side of the Moon, it was a direct flow of experience and love. And I realized that music is a universal language of love. And it made so much sense to me why I spent so much time in New York City bouncing around to, different bands playing at bars and all these music shows. And I understood why festivals are such a popular thing. It's because music is this vibrational language of love that communicates deep ideas of love and connection. So that was a beautiful experience, meditating and listening to Pink Floyd. I was also looking at my room, just appreciating how this all came to be. And it's like, I know that I can stress out in the day-to-day about where I'm going and what I'm doing. But as I was looking around, I saw all of my cameras, my books, my journals. I was like, wow, my guitar hanging on the wall. I was like, wow, like this, through all that overthinking about what I'm doing and where I'm going, it's like, here I am. And I did this for myself, and I have this space where I can create, play the guitar even though I suck at it, and I can write and read, and I can record. And I ended up setting up 4 different angles of my camera just pointed at myself while I was meditating, and I just like got video of this intense experience I was having. And my deep breaths were hitting. I was like feeling my body expanding and contracting and feeling really connected to the whole. I actually had this cool experience of like feeling a connection to Ram Dass that I've never felt before. I would classify him as one of my gurus. I mean, the way he speaks like connects to my soul. It really connects to the way that I think about the world. And I actually had this experience all in my mind, by the way. The quarter tab of LSD gave me no visuals. Everything was in my mind. I had this experience of being one with Ram Dass. Like, it's like I felt his love. I also felt the love of everyone in New York City. I had this flash of a thought or a visual or a experience of the party that I was at. And, I was at the party, and then I went to the deli for some food, and then I went home, and I realized that like, it's like we can think of going to a party in New York City as this separate experience contained within the walls of the apartment. But it's actually like, if you think about the whole pulsing energy of New York City, it's like a party is this energy center, and it's pulsating, and there are so many of these different energy centers and people flowing between them. It's like this grand connected thing. And I was like at the deli, maybe just ever so slightly starting to trip, and I felt like the party isn't over. Like, I'm still a part of the dance, this grand dance of New York City. And obviously the grand dance of New York City is a part of the grand dance of the state and the country. And, as you let go of the labels, it becomes the fucking cosmos. Like, it's all a part of the grand state of the cosmos. And, yeah, man, psychedelics. And I'm starting to So now it's been like, I want to say maybe I've had a handful of experiences on psychedelics. There's been mushrooms, LSD now, and MDA. And it's like I'm starting to wonder about what role is this serving in my life. And I think about Ram Dass, and he really speaks to this for me, because especially in his memoir and in many of his lectures, he talks about how like he used to think that psychedelics were like the answer, and he just needed to figure out how to always retain that state of high. The way I see it is like the psychedelics show me something that I knew anyway. Like behind all those layers that we walk around with in the waking state, in the human realm, there is a knowing that I already have. And what I experience on psychedelics is just an undoing of the layers, and then I see something that I already knew. So then when I come down, it's like I can access that which I already know a little bit easier, and I can walk around with my layers in a lighter way. It's like instead of wearing 10 jackets and 10 scarves and 3 beanies, it's like maybe I'm just wearing like a jacket that I can easily take off of me. So I do see psychedelics as like a tool. And I think that's pretty awesome. And I don't want to overdo it, but like these things are going to be a tool in my toolkit on my path of life, for sure. I think again, not recommending anybody do anything. This is just my own experience. And yeah, I wrote this ginormous page of notes in my notes app while I was on LSD. It was just, I was like sitting there meditating, and this flash of insight would come, and I would scribble it down in my notes app and then close my eyes again and breathe. And yeah, see if I could scan this note and just find any little tidbits. I was having these interesting thoughts about like kind of the laws of nature and energy, the energy that flows whenever I'm on psychedelics, even when I'm sober. I think I'm pretty attuned to like the dance of energy that is always happening, and I can like notice when I'm attracted to someone or something or a situation, and I notice when energies don't line up. And I talked about this in the social confidence at parties episode 14 about how like I feel like I see the dance of energy happening in a party and the flow of it all. And psychedelics really show me that even further. And I was thinking about these neighbors that I met in New York City who have, opened me up to like some of my favorite people and my favorite community where I really feel like I can be myself. And I was thinking about this idea of energy and attraction, and like, we know that planets and matter and space has gravity, and it's like maybe our energy has gravity too. Maybe before we were even neighbors, we were being pulled towards each other, and maybe once we became neighbors, then the gravity was strong enough that we entered each other's orbit. And maybe that's just a metaphor to think about things. Maybe it has some truth to it. I don't really know or care to answer, but that was a nice thought I was having. It's like the idea that there is gravity pulling us to each other and away from each other, and there are orbits happening, and we're part of the cosmic dance, and we can just trust it and trust it and trust it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thought for me. So that was another LSD thought. Another one was with the Pink Floyd. I mean, that shit sent me into another dimension. And I was thinking about how Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, was the first song I learned on the guitar. And I was like, like that's a funny coincidence. And I had not planned to listen to Pink Floyd when I was on the acid. It just happened. And it's like, yeah, a lot of times things just happen. And I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but yeah, I don't know. it just all made sense. It just all made sense. I'm scanning through this note. It's kind of crazy. And, here's another thing. And this is something that I've been long thinking about. It's like, and this is actually what initially drew me to Ram Dass, was a little clip from one of his lectures on relationships about how I have trouble being around people who want something from me and who do not fully allow me to be myself. This idea really came from relationships, because I think when you enter a relationship, there's like a temptation to cling onto the other person. You subconsciously, energetically like control them. And I think when someone else does that to me, I really feel that, and I feel inhibited and a little bit trapped, especially because I have a people-pleasing nature. So I am very conscious about trying to let people fully be themselves, and I try my best to not inhibit other people with my own models of who they're supposed to be. And Ram Dass really helped articulate this for me and help me understand, like, oh yeah, this is something that's really profound for me, this idea of allowing others to be themselves fully and freely, and being around people who allow me to be myself fully and freely. And yeah, on psychedelics, it's like even more obvious, like who is allowing me to fully be. And those people, those are a dime in a dozen. And that is so, so beautiful. And what a blessing it is to be around people who can let you just be and flow and expand. And I experienced that both at the party, and I also experienced it on the other end. I experienced the clinging that we often default to. And it's not like any of this is good or bad. It's just what it is. And the clinging is going to exist. But there's such beauty in being around people who can just allow you to be. And that's like what I look for in people's eyes sometimes when I meet them. And it's also a feeling that you can just feel. But yeah, I came home, and at some point I wanted to go hang out with the roomies in the living room, and I would like put on my headphones and meditate right in front of them sometimes, and then take off my headphones and slip into their world. And it was really beautiful and cool to be able to really be myself in front of others in that way. And when people have the space for that, to allow you to do that, that's a really beautiful thing. Those are the kinds of people who have gravity for me. I'll enter those people's orbits because it's like, finally I can just be in someone else's presence. Yeah, I felt a lot of love just scanning through this note app. I feel like I did do a good job of articulating it. When there are bikes locked outside of an apartment, you've found an energy center. Love that. I experienced The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. No, but I mean, I experienced it. I really experienced it. I really, 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 really ... That's what I wrote. Thoughts of my bookshelf as my personal church, finding faith in what I've come to believe through my own experiences and study. It's okay. Remember what you saw in your studio. I don't think you will always realize it while it's happening, but everything is perfect. Everything is happening how it's supposed to. Look at how beautiful this all is, all of it. Love flows from everything and everyone. I'll leave it at that with the LSD experience. Do I have anything else for this episode? How great is it that we're entering fall? I I feel like myself in the fall. It's like I had a really great, expansive, self-exploratory, social, beautiful summer. But every time when fall starts to hit and the leaves start to change and the temperature drops, I realize that in a way I've slipped into rushing. I've slipped into manically grasping at the summer and trying to milk it for everything it's worth. And when that temperature drops, I'm like, okay, so I can slow down and I can feel my body and my soul, and my favorite songs hit even harder. My fall playlists are always my favorite. That beautiful, beautiful melancholy mood. Oh, it's just so refreshing. And I'm really happy that we're entering the season. And when I feel that internal sensation of the change in the seasons, I realize that I am an offshoot of this earth, just like the plants and the trees. It's like we think we're separate, but we're not. We're a part of it too. And the fact that our beings change with the seasons is a great example of that. It's like, yeah, we're a part of this cosmic dance. We're a part of this earth. We're a part of the ecology of the earth. There is no separation. Yeah, I could say more. Got a lot on my mind. A lot on my mind with dating, but I think I'll save that for therapy. I don't know if that should be on the podcast. Hope you're all well. Remember to enjoy the journey. Enjoy the here and now. Let me know what you thought of this episode. YouTube comments, email. Ways to support me are linked in either the podcast description or the YouTube description. All right. Catch y'all.